Just Like Heaven, The Cure, right here on Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is having themselves a great day. Certainly am myself. Had a little fun at the coffee shop this morning, and I'm going to try to get this wonderful recording out of the way before Super Bowl is going on. So yeah, I usually record these obviously a little bit before the following morning when I release them. Makes it easier, so I'm not in a rush, and it's also consistent. That's why I do it. So anyway, I'm not sure what I'm calling this exactly. It's a very common mistake that a lot of people make, and I'm hoping that by giving it this sort of helpful perspective, in my opinion, will help make it a lot easier for many of us to shift our focus when we have this moment. And what the problem is that I'm specifically speaking about, of course, is many of us are trying to manifest something, and in a lot of cases, relationships. I think this is the one that this happens the most with, I think, because for the most part, I think when you're manifesting things, it's kind of easier to put it behind you. But the relationship thing is something that's near and dear to our heart, so you've got this constant reminder that tends to key in and check in. And oftentimes, the problem that we have, or one of the biggest mistakes we make, and I've done a lot of shows on ways that we can handle this, and I'll cover quickly, but go to other shows that talk about these things. Anya's has certainly done a bunch too, for that matter. But it's when we have those moments where we look at right now and go, I don't have it right now. Why don't I have it right now? I've been doing the work. I must not be doing this right. Whatever. We say all these crazy things because we notice right now we don't have the thing that we're trying to manifest. Now, first off, that's obviously how this all started to begin with, right? You don't manifest things that you currently have. That's silly. But, of course, if you want more of what you currently have, well, you continue to focus and think about those same things or that same energy, or keep thinking about money when you've got money and you get more and more of it. But when it comes to trying to, like I said, manifest a specific person or whatever, and if this applies to anything else, and you're constantly looking at right now and saying, why don't I have it yet? Why isn't it here? What am I doing? One of the things always that you want to try to do is you want to try to get back to holding this image in your mind, whatever it is that you're trying to manifest. Hold it back in your mind, because then technically in reality, and Goddard's really big into backing this up, and certainly Neil Donald Walsh, just only because I'm reading them right now, certainly backs that up too. Really the divinity aspect of ourselves, whatever you call it, is creating this thing, this interaction, this manifestation is coming. So when you hold it in your mind, you're using that ability, you're using that aspect of yourself, or you're using that higher aspect that exists unto you, however you want to believe it, however you want to see it. It all works fine, pretty much, as long as you're conceptually in the understanding that the holding the image in your mind is a creative effort. It helps create that. It helps send creative energy towards it. Now, of course, obviously, when we think the opposite, it doesn't help. So that's the problem when we think of the right now and we're focusing on what we don't have. Well, that's more of what you're going to get. Again, I've said this countless times, and I know it's kind of glossed over, or I think there's a lot of times where we don't catch ourselves in the act of misbehaving, if you will. But when we stop and have these thoughts at the moment and say, I don't have this, that is constantly creating more focus on what you don't have. And by creating more focus on that, you create more of that scenario. So by quickly getting back into the hold the image in your mind, hold the image in your mind, hold the image in your mind, you get yourself back on track, you get yourself making forward progress again, and you get yourself off of right now. It is a process. And here's, I'm going to couple, I think, good examples of if things were not held to an image during the entire process of creating, this thing would never happen. One example, artists, right? Artists, there's exceptions, obviously, but for a lot of cases, artists kind of have an image or some sort of thing that comes alive inside of their mind, and from that, some physical manifestation occurs. But while they're sculpting, or while they're putting the clay together, or while they're putting the colors on the canvas and deciding what brush, or while they're grabbing the pencil, they're going to do this in graphite, and they're, the whatever, or their charcoals or whatever. As they're grabbing their tools, they're still looking at the vision within, or sometimes a live model, but it's still an image. And you've got this image that is guiding the process. you never once as an artist look at the canvas and go, yeah, this is not what I have in my mind. I mean, granted, that's what I did in art because I wasn't very good at it, frankly. But I'd have this image in my mind and it looked really cool. And then when I'd go to put it on paper, it did not look anything like what was going on inside my mind. So, whatever. But I think for people that are actually artists that make beautiful things, I'm sure for the most part, they're like, yeah, this is, this right now at this second is not what I envision. So, of course, if anyone were looking at it, because I had my best friend growing up was a very good artist. And so, of course, when looking at it in the process, you don't look at it and go, oh, this thing sucks. It's not done. He's like, no. This is in process, my friend. There's a lot to this. I'm going to be adding this over here and this to here. And I'm like, oh, totally. That's awesome. That's groovy. And so from that, you continue to move and create and finalize. And finally, you've got your finished product, your manifested product, your outcome, because you held the image, not because you ever looked at right now. Another great example, architects. The building is not done until it is a building. And the entire time they're hanging on to the blueprints, their image, through the entire building process, especially if it's like a skyscraper or something crazy, right? These things are being built for years or months. And it's a process, floor by floor by floor by floor by floor. You got to move the tools and the cranes and everything up along with it, right? Such an amazing process. You have to constantly hold the vision, because if you keep looking at where you're at, you're like, this building looks like crap. It's all jaggedy and missing stuff, and what's going on? The current state of things is not what it's becoming. And even once you're finally, have your first date, or, spend the night together, or go out and do something, whatever, some major milestone, you're still not done. You still got a long, joyous ways to go. These are just markers. It was like for me hitting one of the recent markers I hit on my YouTube, right? Well, that's great. It got through it, and now I've got another marker to go for. You're not done. We're never done. And so what it is that we're trying to create, don't worry so much about where we're at right now. If you're trying to change or shift or alter your current life, looking at your current life for evidence that it's currently changing isn't really going to work. Things will show along the way that will indicate change is coming. Maybe some of those signs, those coincidences, certain things may happen. You start noticing your best friend's got exactly what it is that you're trying to manifest, right? Like, you'll see it. Things will start to indicate it's coming. And through that process, we can stay stronger. Again, so keep holding the vision. When you have these moments where you're like, I don't have it right now. Why don't I have it right now? Whoa, stop. Everything you're doing is working fine. You're doing great. You're doing perfect. Seriously, probably doing very, very good. Yes, you might have some negative thoughts here and there. Yes, there's probably things you're working on. Yes, there's some self-love. Of course. But you're probably doing fine. We just need to stop noticing right now and thinking that is tomorrow. Right now is definitely not tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be tomorrow. And when you get to that moment, that's still not tomorrow. So again, things are constantly evolving. Yes, we live in the moment. Life is all about the moment, but focusing too much at your feet while you're walking. If you just stare at your feet while you're walking, you're probably going to walk off a cliff, aren't you? You got to look ahead a little. You have to. You got to see what's out in front of you. Especially around where I live, man, you go walking off in the trails or something and you're not paying attention to what else, you're going to step on a snake and get bit. And it's not like Australia where like anything, like a mosquito can kill you. I mean, whatever, it's like crazy out there. But, here we just have a couple little sissy bugs and a couple little small varmints that can cause some problems, maybe give you a nasty infection, crazy stuff like that. Not like death in 4 steps like in Australia where everything can kill you. Love it. Fantastic country. Love it, by the way, because I've been fascinated with all that. So hopefully all this makes it possible. One other example I was kind of using, but I thought it was weak, so I'm just going to chuck it out there just real quick. But a trip, right? You got a schedule. You kind of got a plan. You sort of try to keep to it. Generally speaking, you use that to guide the way the vacation plays out, right? How often do you really just go someplace and be like, just going to wing it? Kind of more what I would do. There might be a couple things I would plan, but outside of that, I'd be like, we'll see what we fill up to, Especially when I went to Hawaii. Such an awesome place, man. Just like, let's go to the beach for sure. We're going to work that into the day. That was so much fun. Anyway, going to go out with a great song. I got to make fun of these two dudes' names really quick, though, that did the song. You guys might recognize it just based off it. One of them is England Dan. That's his last name, apparently. But being a Dan, that's kind of insulting. Just saying. England Dan. And John Ford Coley, which oddly, 3 names makes him sound like he's an assassin. So I don't know if he's killed before, but it certainly sounds like it. But anyway, the song is called I'd Really Love to See You Tonight. It's Dan Radio Style.
Later on, we could get together for a while.